Hello everybody, what's going on? My name is Simo and welcome to How I Made Surrounding Peace. Let's go ahead and get going. Alrighty, so if you missed any of the previous episodes on this series for how I made any kind of song that I've made so far, a link in the description for the playlist will be there for you to watch whatever episode you want to watch that I have so far. So in this episode, like I said, we're covering Surrounding Peace. It's actually a fairly old song. I don't really know the date of it, but it's either like a 2017 or 2018 song. So there you go. But this is essentially one of the only chill out songs I've ever done. So it's going to be kind of fun diving into what this is. So there you go. As always, we're going to be covering this in 3 different parts. We're going to be covering this in the arrangement, elements, and goals, sound design, and then we're going to cover an aspect of mixing and mastering that's going to help you out that's in relation to this song right here. Let's go ahead and get started with the first part right now. Alrighty, so like I said, arrangement, elements, and goals, and we're actually going to be covering these 3 things, but in reverse order. So let's start with goals. Now, when it came to the goal of this particular track, it was actually, it started out as actually a collaboration effort between me and another artist. I think it was a guy named Sky Trias or something like that. It was Sky something. He was on a different Discord server. I have no idea if he's still active there or not or whatever he's doing. But he was a pretty good artist. He wasn't actually bad at all. And, initially it worked out pretty well. But towards the end of some things, basically we kind of started disagreeing on basically arrangement and how to work out different things and whatnot. So eventually we decided, we're just not going to work on it anymore. And he decided to quit on his portion. But I decided, this is too good to let go, so I'm going to take over from here and just make it my own thing, which is essentially what happened. So basically, as a result of that, not every single element that I have in this song is actually of mine, although most of it, I will say, is of mine. There's really like 2 core elements that are not mine in this particular song, and it's like all the audio bits that you see right here. But essentially, that's pretty much it. And everything else is of me and kind of my arrangement, although he had some ideas, I'm sure, that he incorporated into, how to, ARPs or something like that or whatever. But this track was so long ago when it started that I don't remember everything in that regard. So there you go. Oh, this song was actually 2016. Wow. Interesting. So anyway, basically, this is kind of just the end result of that. And this song is super old too, because I actually had to open this up with the 32-bit wave file. Not 32-bit wave file, 32-bit FL Studio, because for some reason, regular FL Studio, what is this called again? Sound font player. There we go. Would not load this choir with this sound font, and I essentially would have to load in a 64-bit sound font player just for it to work. And for some reason, it didn't. I had to load it with 32-bit, so whatever. So, and plus, you can tell the colors are kind of off. They're not actual FL Studio. Like if you look at this one, way more brighter versus this one right here. So there you go. So I made this with, I think it was FL Studio 10, I think I made this initially with, but then I moved over to 12, of course, later on, and there you go. Now, the thing that I'm going to cover with this particular track, in terms of other goals and things like that, just to kind of, just a quick tip, I guess you could say, in collaborations, and I'm not like a collaboration master by any means, because I still haven't made a single collaboration song, but from my experience, and from near completed collaborations, or at least collaborations that worked out way better than others, you gotta find somebody that actually you can work with pretty well, and somebody that can share the same ideas as you, and is willing to kind of, do the things that you can do, and whatnot. And for me, it kind of worked out that way with some collaborations that were being worked on, but I still haven't finished, and probably won't be finished, but you get the idea. So you got to find somebody that you're actually willing to work with and actually can, have a similar mindset, because if you're doing any kind of work with even one other person, it becomes a lot harder. At least if you're doing remote work. IRL collabs are actually way easier. There's this guy that I know. He's a rapper essentially, and we were working on a collaboration one time at like this school kind of setting or whatever. And we're just in our dorms and we're hanging out. And I brought over my computer, hooked it up, and everything like that. Started making stuff, and it actually turned out pretty well. Of course, none of it's finished, and probably never will be. But it was actually some pretty cool things. And he was able to show me some things and kind of figure stuff out. And for some reason, I have a freaking Steam message. Oh, it's just the update, whatever. Anyway, so there you go. But that's enough about collabs. Let's go on to the next part, which is going to be the elements. So, in terms of elements, there actually isn't that much in this song. Most of it is actually just simply, I guess you could really just say most of it is really just like synths, and a little bit of audio stuff, and of course the drums and whatnot. But there's not too much to it. So go ahead and highlight the first thing. So we got this pluck thing going on here. That's the first thing you hear, and it's really just a basic ARP. This track actually, I believe, was made in G major. I want to say G major. Although I could be wrong. It should be G major is what this track was made in. So there you go. I think I had to lower everything down to semitone because originally it was going to be G sharp, I believe. So there you go. But that's the first thing you hear here. So next thing after that you hear that's relevant to the melodic section is the vocal chops, which I will discuss a little bit how I made that in the sound design. I'm actually going to do that and not cover a topical thing, although I probably will also do that as well. So there you go. I actually kind of like those vocal chops a lot. If you're also wondering what the sample's from, it's actually just simply AU5's Follow You acapella. So you can get it from a stem pack if you can find it. So, haha, there you go. Anyway, after that, we also have this choir here, which I actually kind of like. It kind of reminds me a lot of the song You With Me in the way I did it. It's just like a rising choir type of thing with the low pass and whatnot. Nothing too special. But it is pretty cool in my opinion, so there you go. Just adds to the song overall. And I think one of the final things, at least the final thing that's melodic for me, is just the pure sub bass. And there really is nothing else to it other than just a pure sub. Because like I said, this song is supposed to be chill out, even though it's kind of more of a, I guess you could say it's more mid-tempo than chill out, but there you go. So there you go. Now, the other melodic element that is actually is not mine at all. Like I said, this is not mine whatsoever. And this is the one thing. This is the one of the two things that Skyshare has had made. That was also featured in this thing. Although I think there might have been more that could have been featured, but this is basically it. So I will talk about, at least from what I remember, how he said he made this. Although it's very vague, and I'm not gonna get it correct all the way. But there you go. And finally, we have this legato lead that he also had made. This is the one other thing aside from the FX thing that I just showed you. So Now, one thing I do want to point out actually real fast, the second time it repeats, I think I did something with the audio to where it basically shifts down a couple semitones, and it just so happened to fit the key of the song that we were working at the time. So there you go. And I think I had to shift this up a semitone or whatever to make that work. Yeah, nothing much to that as well. So I think as far as melodic elements are concerned, that's it. Yep, looks like that's pretty much it. So yeah, the harmonic pluck, vocal chops, choir, legato lead, and some soft thing, FX, reverb, whatever stuff, and a sub bass. Now finally the drums. Drums are very simple, although I will say that I'm not using much of these sounds anymore, and the way I constructed them is definitely not how I usually do things either. At least not most of the time. Sometimes I'll do it, but most of the time I won't now, so. So yeah, and of course we do have the cymbals. Yeah. Very simple stuff. Simple enough, at least. And that's it for all the elements. Let's go ahead and talk about the arrangement, which is a lot more simple than you think. It's very repeating. This song does repeat a lot. I kind of like it that way, but one of the benefits of having it repeat a lot is that you have a fairly simple song structure, and it's also one of the songs that I would consider it's one of my shorter songs, and I think at the time it really was my shortest song, although I have released shorter since, but still. Anyway, let's go ahead and talk about this. So we got basically a 16-bar intro, essentially, although I would rather split it up into two separate parts overall. So we got the first part, which I would consider part A. This is the first 8 bars. Basically, that part is, the first 8 bars of that. That's part A. Then we got part B, which this song doesn't really have an intro breakdown to the first drop. You could consider some of the way the intro kind of builds up to be breakdown-esque, but really it's not. It's just an intro that leads her straight into the drop. So. So there you go with that. So overall, the whole intro is 16 bars, but I split it up into two 8-bar sections as a whole. And then we have the first drop, which is just straight up only 16 bars. It goes straight into halftime to kind of slow things down a bit. So, fun stuff. That would have been actually cool to have in the song. So that's the first thing right there. And then it goes into a breakdown, which is only 8 bars length. And then we go into another drop, which the drums are more 4/4, although not exactly. But the snare still maintains a halftime beat, so it kind of speeds it up without making it like too fast, I guess you could say, while varying up a little bit of the vocal chops and also the pluck elements as well. So fun times there. And then that, like I said, the drop too. It's like 16 bars for the second drop. Now the second breakdown, I'm gonna say this right here is actually a total of 16 bars. You could technically split it up into 2 different parts, but for this breakdown, it feels better, at least in my mind, and I'm the one that made it, so there you go. To basically combine it all into one giant 16 bar breakdown, I guess you could say. Not really giant, but good size length. It's certainly longer than 8 bars of the first breakdown, so there you go. Yeah. Yeah, and just to kind of emphasize that we're getting closer to the end, I start using the full-blown choir without any kind of like ramping up with the low pass filter at all. So, and we basically, it kind of repeats both the second and first drop. Well, the first and second drop, just varying it up a little bit while making the drums more distinctly halftime than the first drop. It's certainly a lot more sparse than the first drop right here. So there you go. And finally, the outro, 16 bars there. And it basically just kind of more or less repeats the first drop, but with intro-like elements. So there you go. So overall, if I had to say, you have an intro, which is split into, part A and part B, both 8 bars for 16 bars total intro, 16 bar drop. First breakdown 8 bars, second drop 16 bars, breakdown number 2 16 bars, drop 3 16 bars, outro another final 16 bars. So there you go. Pretty simple stuff, not that hard at all. And overall, I really enjoyed making this track, even if it was a failed collab. Oh, and there is one other element I did forget to mention. Actually, there was a white noise sample that I did. So it's better late than never, huh? Yeah, it's just background noise basically, but there you go. Anyway, that's the now all of the elements and the goals and the arrangements. So yeah, let's move on to sound design, which we will cover a few things in here in more detail because I can cover them. Yes, they're not that hard. Yay! Stuff and things, man. Alrighty, so let's cover the sound design. So we're going to cover 3 elements in particular for we're basically just covering sound design, and we're going to cover the vocal chops, the pluck, and the, I guess you could say, the soft reverb FX that Skytrias he made. But I will say, when we get to that part, I'm mostly going to be guessing and kind of trying to remember what he did, because if I'm going to be honest with you, I don't remember exactly everything he told me because it was so long ago. It was like over 2 or 3 years ago, man. So there you go. I'll try to remember as much as I can with that particular sound, but no promises. But what I can tell you is exactly how to make this vocal chop stuff, because this vocal chop stuff actually not that hard, and looking at it now, it's a lot more reminiscent of what I actually do now if I want to do vocal chops at all. So here we go. Now let's go ahead and get started with basically just listening to it right now. It's actually relatively simple to do. So what you need to do, I'm actually just going to open up a raw Harmor just so I can show you directly from thing to thing or whatever it is. I don't even know. Stuff and things. Yeah, that's my favorite 2 words, yo. I'm going to show you exactly how to do it though. So, first thing you need to do is actually relatively simple. Open up Harmor, like I said, and find your vocal sample. I'm going to try and find the same one I use in this song, or at least similar enough if I can find it. Where is it? Where the freak are you? There we go, that's it. So yeah, that's the Follow You vocal from AU5's track Follow You by that one singer's name I can never pronounce. So yeah, you'll find it. Pretty popular track. Anyway, open up your Harmor, drag and drop it into the image section. And then after you do that, it's going to load into the image section. Fun stuff, yes indeed. After you do that, basically, and by the way, this is currently how I do my stuff now, so there you go. Pretty much turn the sharpness all the way to the center. The top part of the center is basically 0% transientness. 0% transience and phasiness. I'm trying to combine two words into one for some reason. After you do that, reverse the speed to -100. Go into the time offset section. This thing, right click, hit edit articulator. Go to keyboard mapping. Drag the bottom node, I guess you could say. That's right there on the right side, and just drag it all the way to the top. After you do that, go to pitch. Then after you do that, go to keyboard mapping. Drag this all the way down here. Drag the right node all the way down to the bottom, and drag the left node all the way up to the top. What that's going to do is it's going to make every single note that you ever play in this particular patch the same static pitch. Period. So listen. I guess not listen. Let's just actually do this instead. Listen, you'll notice it's all the exact same pitch, but if we reset that, it's basically now it's it's regular pitch. But if we have this particular shape right here, all the same pitch. No matter what note we press. That's the reason why you want to do that. After you do that, you want to go into velocity mapping. And this is something I currently do now. I don't think I do this too much. I don't think I did this really at all in the other one. Did I? If I did, I certainly didn't utilize it. No, I didn't utilize. I did not utilize it because I was trying to do it a different way, but whatever. This is the current way I do it, so do it the current way, yo. So anyway, go to velocity mapping within pitch, and basically map out just 12 semitones of velocity that you can change. So just have this stair-step shape to the point where you have all of them listed as such. And it basically looks exactly like this shape right here. That's what you want the shape to look like. After you do that, click this button right here. It says velocity to volume. Disable that. Very, very important. And then after you're done there, well, you're done. Literally. I mean it. You're just done. You have now vocal chopped your way into success. You just have to make them and stop being a noob. That's really it. So let's open up another one. So let's just simply put in some random notes. It's not going to be any kind of good, but we don't care. Because this is just an example to show you what you might be able to do if you didn't suck. Like me. Let's just mix it up a little bit with this. Bam. Something kind of alright. So, that's basically how you can do vocal chops. Now, the beautiful thing about this particular method is that you have access to change whatever pitch you want utilizing the velocity tool. So listen to this. You can change the pitch however you like. You can even make it off tune if you wanted to. And this is where a little quick of a tip that I have for anyone that wants to do vocal chops this way. If you're gonna do vocal chops like this at all, I recommend that you insert your vocal chop thing into a separate insert mixer, go into Wave Candy, and once you have Wave Candy actually open and drag to the correct screen, you want to put this to the spectrum thing, put it all the way put the scale knob all the way down to the right, and put color all the way to the right. Basically what this does is that wherever it's inserted into there is going to essentially tell you the note of it by looking at the very fundamental note. So take a look at this. If things will actually play. Oh yeah, that's right, because it's not highlighted. Derp. Take a look at this one. You see this is playing in G sharp. So let's highlight a particular note right here. You can see if we look at the very bottom of the note where it's being played, the fundamental tone, it's playing in G sharp. But if we want to change it maybe to something else, you can still see that, hey, C sharp. And if you want to be in G sharp major or whatever scale is applicable to you, you can see, oh, that's in the key or that's not in the key. Very useful if you're not good at interval ear training, or even if you don't have perfect pitch or relative pitch. This is a very useful tool for you, because the only unfortunate thing about messing with the pitches like this when it comes to the velocity tool thing that I have is that if you're not good at recognizing those intervals, or if you just don't have the magic of perfect pitch like some people do, Modus, I'm looking at you, and other people like you, AU5, darn you. Basically what this means is that you're going to actually be able to know what note you're playing, because for a long time, and in fact you can still hear this in some of my other tracks too, just go look up the song of mine, Can You Stay Here, within the singles playlist. You'll hear that the vocal chops are very offbeat, and I couldn't recognize them for the longest time. And even though I had this tool at the time to help me, I like this still so many things that would have been better if I just realized more what was going on, and if I actually paid a lot more attention to what was actually happening. So this tool can really help you stay in key if that's something that you want to do. Vocal chops, at least this way. Or of course you just could not just mess around with the pitches at all, and then basically everything that you ever press will be in the same key regardless, because yes, because you're not lazy. Or you are lazy. Or something, I don't know. Or you could just, you do it by ear, but whatever. That's the hard way. You don't want to do it the hard way, so why do it the hard way? You can just do it the easy way by using Wave Candy, because yes. Anyway, that's vocal chops, how to do them, and I'll probably make a separate tutorial for this whole thing, but there you go. Let's talk about plucks. So the pluck, we have this. And it's not playing, because once again, I don't have the audio played. This is actually, I think, a preset that I had made before. I think. It may have been modified or something, but I don't really remember. What the freak was this? Oh, this is my attempt at the lead thing. So this plug thing, I don't remember exactly how I made everything, but it is a thing, and it's definitely something you can do. So one of the things I do know is that there is, like I said, like I see, there is this volume shape envelope, what basically means it's going to cut off at a certain point anyway. That's basically how long it lasts, essentially. You want to just create that. You just want to basically, turn this on, put it up to this length, and then right click on it and make sure you have sustain loop in, and put a little bit of a curve on there for the volume. So there you go. Filter frequency. This is probably a very even more important thing. Again, put the little envelope turn on thing, tempo. You want to have that enabled. Put your envelope shaped like this, so it basically creates that pluck sound, because without that you don't have it. And again, sustain loop in, because what that's going to do is that it's going to make it so that your note, whenever you stop holding down your note, whether in MIDI or via key press or something like that, basically it's going to turn it off the moment you stop playing it. But if you don't have it enabled, no matter what you press, it's going to still play the same note. And it's even more obvious when you have the volume doing the same thing, which is again why you want to have that enabled. Versus something like this. Very important. Now, the next thing we want to have there, some six order of unison. Have about a good, mid to low level of unison pitch thickness. I think the default pan a little bit higher in the phase, unison phase on the upper echelon of things. Classic, alt on. I'm not messing anything with that. I do have the pluck enabled too, which kind of helps the pluckiness of this. You're going to have this pluck shape, of course. And the phaser shape, I did try to mess around with phaser, but apparently that didn't work out, so never mind with that. And if you want to change the actual pluck amount, then definitely have the shape or this modulation X mapping to this degree. So yes. Although I don't remember if I did mess around with that. Oh yeah, it seems like I did actually. So there you go. So yeah. What else? What else is there? Filter envelope amount. I guess I did something with the X modulation mapping there. So I guess that helps out a lot too. So there you go. And I think, oh yeah, the phase randomness have this all the way to 100% running or all the way to the right, because what this does actually is pretty important. So what this little knob here does, is, from what I understand, is that what ends up happening is that you can leave it alone, you can have it reset to 0, and there's not going to be any phase randomness whatsoever. But the funny thing is that if you have it all the way to the left, which is 100% spectral randomness, basically what that means is that every single phase or partial or something, whatever it is, maybe sine wave, I don't even know, but basically all the little frequencies that are playing within Harmor are going to be completely phase random, and what this is basically going to do is blur the sound. I mean, it's kind of hard to tell because of the sound itself, but it's actually better to hear it with just the raw, naked, type of unison thing going on. That's what spectral randomness. This is what they're just 100% running. Basically what this means is that when you have it on 100% running, is that all the phases are still random, but they're random together. So you can kind of think about it, I guess you could think about it like an army, or like a crowd running versus an army running. So spectral randomness would basically be like everybody running everywhere, trying to run away from something, and everyone's just complete chaos and everything like that. It just looks like a giant blur. But if you had like an army marching down the street or something like that, or all unicide or whatever, like your freaking Hitler army thing. I don't know why I'm saying Nazi stuff, but there you go. Basically, it's going to look all unified. They're all going to be going in the same direction, and maybe they might be telling them to go randomly in different directions, but they'll be all going randomly different directions in the same way. So that's kind of how you can think about that. So, bam. There goes my Nazi imagery for the day for some reason. I don't know why. I don't hate Jews or anything. Please don't play me. Anyway, so after that failing, embarrassing thing I tried to make funny, that's pretty much it for the plucks. Let's go ahead and talk about... Gosh, I hate myself for saying that. Let's go ahead and talk about this strings sound effect thing that I have little idea how to make. So from what I understand, from what I remember at least, basically in order to make this sound, it actually involved Edison, from what I remember correctly. So if I recall correctly, at least I could be wrong, but what he told me, I think he took either some strings or like a piano basically, and what he essentially did is that he went into this little knob thing, or this thing, whatever, and basically denoised the sound. That's essentially what he did, and he might have put some reverb on it too. But the key of it all really was actually cleanup or the denoising effect that you have within Edison. Now, what that's something else. What basically denoising does in terms of like sound recording and stuff like that is that it's essentially an attempt to try and get rid of background white noise sounds that you might have in your recording. It is very useful to have it. So, for example, I'm just gonna real quickly just drag a sample that I have of me saying stuff. If I can find it.
Right.
That's something that I don't want to show you actually. Where's a good sound? Where's a good thing?
Okay. Anyway, I'm recording and we're ready to go. So
So we can. I'm trying to find something. You know, here's a better idea. Let's just record myself saying stuff, and then we'll put it in Edison and do the same thing. This is a test for stuff and things, yo. So yeah, if we can hear it. Yo. This is a test for stuff and things, yo. So yeah, that's pretty much that. Now, if we go open this up, let's listen to it again real quick. This is a test for stuff and things, yo. You kind of hear a little bit of white noise in the back of the recording, and you can kind of see it visually too, because if you look at this like grainy, kind of light but darkish purplish that you see here, that's not basically this. You can basically look at this and say, okay, that's background noise, right? That's all that is. That's just background noise, just white noise in the back. Let's try to get rid of it by using cleanup denoising effect. So if we drag this over here to where we can actually see it on our main screen, basically what you can see is you have several different options. You have the frequency scale thing, which basically does that. Stuff and things, the threshold, which affects the amount, and the basically kind of like the, I guess you could say like a noise gate type of thing or whatever. I'm not exactly completely sure, but it does stuff, and it definitely does affect the amount. And the amount is just purely the amount, kind of like just that. So there you go. Now, if we basically acquire noise, let's just set this all the way back to normal. So acquire noise profile, and we go back up to denoising and preview. This is a test for stuff and things, yo. Basically, it kind of just blurs out the sound. We can lower the amount even more. This is a test for stuff and things, yo. You can kind of hear that most of the noise in the back is gone. This is a test for stuff and things, yo. But if we turn it off, it's all back there again. So if we listen to the threshold, it just almost completely gets rid of everything, because most of it, at least according to these settings, is basically nothing but noise. And the frequency scale just shifts it up a bit, I guess. This is a test for stuff and things, yo. So there you go. And you can just listen to this and just do stuff. This is a test for stuff and things, yo. But what we could do as well, we could just take like random samples and do the same thing as well. See if we can find something real quick. Oh gosh, what's a good one? I have some sort of what is it? Piano thing somewhere. I don't remember where though. So yeah, that's right. So we can try it out with this real quick. This is for something that I was gonna make and have not done at all. So there you go. Acquire noise profile. Let's just do that. It's gonna take a little bit for it to do its thing, because basically this is a longer sample regardless. So yes. So now we go back. We've acquired the noise profile, clean up the noise, and preview. And so if we want to actually do a lot of cool stuff with this, basically you got that going on there. Now, once we've done that, we've created more of an underwater sound that is not too dissimilar to the actual the stringed underwater sound effect that we got going on here, which is not playing at all. The major difference is, of course, that there is no reverb with the one that I have right here. It's because I didn't put it on there, but there you go. But that's the main crux of how you make that sound. Essentially, the denoising effect on musical instruments, like a piano. So there you go. But add some reverbs and stuff like that, and you're all set with there. And that's basically all the sound designing that you need to create that effect. And this is all I'm going to cover with sound design because, yes, fun stuff. And yeah. Boom, let's go ahead and cover the final bit of this tutorial breakdown song thing, which is, mixing and mastering, because yes, we like to do that stuff. Fun times indeed. Yes. Alrighty, so now we are on to the final part of this, which is the mixing and mastering. Now, mixing and mastering, I've covered a lot of this in older tutorials in terms of or at least older song breakdowns of different aspects and different things you can do and whatnot. But at the same time though, there is one technique or one tip that I can always give to people, especially if you're doing more bro step or heavy stuff generally, or even if it's not heavy stuff, but generally speaking, it fits for almost every single genre, at least within the electronic music scene that you want to have, or if you're going to do that. So this is basically, simply put, very, very simply put, having your drums stupidly loud. I mean, just absolutely stupid loud, like to the point where it's like, why would you ever have your drums that loud? I can tell you why, because it's good. Because we are good. We're good at things and stuff. If you want to hear what everything else sounds like in context, this is what it sounds like. Notice how even when I have things lowered, the drums still peak through like crazy. They're still very, very loud, and they're still very, very present. Now, the biggest reason why you want to have something like this happen is because, generally speaking, for whatever reason within electronic music, drums are a lot more punchier and a lot more present. Basically, the reason why we have things like side chaining and ducking for drums on everything else, where the drums basically cause everything else to peak down, is so we can have more impactful drums, because that's just part of the electronic feel. Part of the reason why drums are also synthesized and heavily compressed and everything like that, and a lot of people say, well, let's over-compress, is because we like that kind of sound of quote-unquote over-compression. Because at the end of the day, louder is better, and when you have things basically louder, almost all the time they're better. That's the reason why a lot of songs in bro step can just be like stupidly loud. Like, you look at the whole WAV file, it's nothing but a sausage, nothing but a brick fat audio, to the point where you can even make things literally just a solid brick of nothing but audio. Don't believe me? Let me show you something right here. This is from an older song I do plan on covering eventually, sooner or later. But right now it's not done yet, and it's not going to be out for a long time. But look at this thing. It's so loud. Look at this. I don't know why it's a pitch higher, but there you go. Just listen to this. It's so loud, man. It's so good. But it's so good because it is loud. Because louder is better. Don't believe me? Turn up the music to your favorite thing and see how better it feels. You know I'm right. You know I'm right. So anyway, louder stuff is better within electronic music because drums are punchier or whatever. So there you go. But yeah, you want to have loud drums when you're mixing and mastering stuff. And generally speaking, I think it's a good idea as a whole to have louder drums than necessary, because one of the things when it comes to the alternative is that if you don't have loud enough drums, let's say your drums are quieter than everything else, well, you want to, even with a lot of side chaining and ducking and things like that, they're not going to be as impactful as what they could be. Because, again, part of the feel within electronic music is just having that loud, stupid drum punchy stuff going on. And at the end of the day, unless you're making something that's like purely chill step to the point where it's like, completely like atmospheric almost, like some other tracks I've heard from actually AU5, Fractal, and other artists. Overall, you're really not gonna have a good time. So just keep that in mind. Drums are very loud to keep loud, are very important to keep loud. I can talk, I promise. And you want to have them as loud as possible without doing too much damage, of course. Like, you don't want to have them like peaking like 6,000 dB above zero or something like that. Of course not. Within reason. And overall, it's a good idea to keep it all within balance, but at the same time, though, if you had to choose one thing, too loud of drums versus too quiet of drums, always choose too loud. Like, you can always turn it down later in your mix, especially if you're mixing and mastering on the go within the same project. Just turn them down. If not, just go back into your project file, turn them down, and render out the stems again. But it's always better to make it too loud than to make it not loud enough, because at the end of the day, it's just, I don't know, it's just better to be in that direction. Because again, electronic music, at least for the most part, performs better with louder drums. So yeah, I don't really know how else to say that. So one thing I do want to point out with the drums too is that I actually learned this kind of cool technique. This isn't really relevant to so much of the mastering thing, but I guess it's fun to point out. Wave shaping your drums, basically creating a louder sample using wave shaping. It's actually kind of cool. I did the same thing with this snare sample. Which one is this? This one right here, I think. Just having that works out pretty freaking well. And of course, I didn't do that with this other one, but it doesn't really matter. It was just the clap portion of it. So, and see if we can highlight that even better. It's just the clap portion of it, so it doesn't matter as much. But still, wave shaping is good, and that's basically that. So, in any case, that's just kind of the small little tip I do want to give in regards to that. There are some other things I will mention in other tutorials and song breakdowns for mixing and mastering, but this is kind of the one I want to highlight for right now. So there you go. Anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I will catch y'all in the next song breakdown for next Friday. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this one as a whole. Let me know if there is anything you want me to cover in surrounding piece at all that I may have missed or something like that. If you notice something like, hey, how do you do this, or how does this work, that kind of thing, just let me know, and I'll be more than willing to make a separate video for like a part, surrounding piece part B or something like that. I don't know. So anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. I'll catch y'all on the next tutorial or whatever, and goodbye. Go away. Seriously, go. Video's over. Bye. But subscribe though. I do like that. Please.